Hello everyone. So I have came up with a new course, Management Theory and Practice, where you people will learn about the basic fundamental concepts of management, the evolution of the management, and the different functions of the management in detail. So let us go into the class. First of all, let us define what is management. Management is generally called as an art of getting things done by people. So where manager is a person who always motivates, coordinates with his subordinates in order to get the things done. So management is the art of getting things done through others and with formally organized group so that the organizational goals and objectives can be attained. So it is also called as a multi-purpose organ that manages business, managers and workers. So, another definition of management says that it is how you plan, organize, direct, staff, and coordinate with all the resources, whatever are required for accomplishment of the goals of the organization. So here we generally discuss about the four M's, that is men, material, money and machinery. And all these four resources are equally important for the accomplishment of the organizational goals. So management is nothing but how do you manage all these four resources? How do you plan? How do you acquire? How do you organize the task and activities in the organization? How do you acquire the people and the resources? How do you coordinate with all of the resources so that the things will fall in its place? And how do you control the behavior of the people so that everything is it in order at the organization? So management is nothing but it is a process of planning, organizing, directing, coordinating and controlling all these four resources which are required for the accomplishment of organizational goals and objective. So in that process, the manager will coordinate him, he will motivate the people for improved productivity so that the things will be done at a faster rate in the accurate time. And the main objective of management is achieving the organizational goals and objectives in time. Coming to the characteristics of management, we say that management is universal. So, irrespective of the place where the organization is located, irrespective of the size of the organization, management principles are applicable to every kind of organization, and these principles are universal in nature. It means like they are not different to India, they are not different to America, they are not differently followed in Australia. So, whatever the country, but these principles are followed in the same way in all the organizations situated across the globe. So, management is goal oriented. So, because without any goal, the organization will not function. Every organization will have certain goals and objectives, what they want to achieve in the near future. So, management aim is to achieve that goals in time so that the organization can survive for a longer period. So always the management activities, whatever we do, they are purpose driven, they are goal oriented, and these all lead to the achievement of the organizational goals and objectives. And management is continuous. So we can't say that for 6 months I will follow the management principles and after 6 months I'll just keep quiet. It is not like that. So whatever the principles, policies, whatever the management of resources you are doing, that is a continuous process because production activities will be continuous, marketing activities will be continuous, finance and HR activities will be continuous throughout the year 24 by 7. So here, management principles and activities are also continuous until the organization is established or until the organization is functioning. Management is intangible, it is not perishable goods, it is always exist in nature. So whenever until your organization survive, so these principles will be followed without any doubt. So they will not perish, they will not they will not disappear from the organization. So until the organization is surviving, all the activities will be performed, and they are physical in nature, so that we can see what the people are doing, what the resources are being used for. So they appear in physical in nature, and we say that management is multidisciplinary. So here management is not a single course or subject, so where it also have different courses as a part of the curriculum. Because if you see like the courses, the professions like engineering, medicine, management is also considered as a different profession where multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary subjects will be there, like where the management students will learn the courses of statistics, psychology, computer science, and other areas which are connected and interconnected with the management discipline. So here also the management courses is a combination of other courses drawn from different disciplines. And management is situational in nature. Situational in nature in the sense the decision makings are not, like they are not permanent, they are not fixed, because as according to the consequences faced by the managers, as according to the situations faced by the managers, as according to the resources given to the managers, their decisions will be taken up. So like there is no proper fixed rule, like that the decision made in one situation today will be the same tomorrow in the same situation, because it depends on a lot of factors, the kind of environment you have, the kind of people you have, the kind of resource availability you have. So where the decisions will be taken in another sense, decisions may be revised as according to the situations of that particular person. So we can't say that management decisions are fixed throughout the the life of the organization. Management coordinates the human efforts, because here we are coordinating with all the resources, but here the human beings or the employees are considered as an important asset, who are responsible for coordinate with all the resources and the departments for the accomplishment of the organizational goals. So here the managers will coordinate the efforts of all the employees in various departments, in various positions, only for a single purpose, that is the attainment of the organizational goals. So coordination of all the employees in the organization will be done by the management, so that at the end of the day all the goals and objectives fixed will be achieved. And it always aims for improving the efficiency of the labor, because day to day activities will be observed, and wherever necessary the management will provide training and development or some kind of educational opportunities to upgrade the skills of the labor whenever they think that the labor is not fit for the present jobs. So always it tries to improve the efficiency of the labor, improve the efficiency of the department, and also organization. And with that only the organization will able to meet the competition and survive for a longer period. And coming to the nature of the management, we say that management is both science and art. And in most of the cases, so we say that it is both. So as a science, management as a science, because generally in science everything is experimentally proved, and we know that the famous options and captions in the science said for every action there will be an opposite reaction or equivalent reaction. So in the same way in management also, for every decision making taken by the organization, then there can be an opposite reaction from the employees as well. Whenever the decisions go wrong, they will not meet the expectations of the employees. So suppose if the organization has taken a decision that they are not going to give a bonus to the employees for the coming 2 years, so then the employees certainly feel dissatisfied, and they always think about the reasons why the management is not giving the bonus, and they will start fighting for that, because bonus, gratuity, provident funds are the rights of the employees to enjoy whenever the organizations are in good financial situations. But these kind of decisions will make the employees to have a opposite reaction, to have a argument with the management, so that they can get the bonus and other incentives as per the rules and regulations. So like that, for every decision taken by a manager will have certain reactions from the employees. Either it can be an opposite reaction or it can be an equivalent reaction. So sometimes the people may applaud the managers for the good decisions, if the decisions meet their expectations, and if the decisions may not meet the expectations of the employees, certainly they will come for a protest. So there, the opposite reactions we are going to see. So that is how the experimental based things will happen in the management. So in that concern, we can say that management is a science. And art is nothing but it's a combination of lot of things. So like art is in which is always involved with some creativity and innovation. So generally art means creativity and innovation, and managers or the people who are in management should always be creative and innovative in implementing different things or creative things or creative ideas in the organization, so that they can enhance or improve the individual performance as well as the organizational performance. So here also, like decision making is a creativity, because if decision making goes wrong, if the managers take wrong decisions, then it is going to affect the entire organization. And if the decisions are appropriate, so it is going to yield a lot of revenues for the organization. So depending on one decision, the fate of the company may change. So that is also a creativity, where the manager will think in different perspective and decide what is best and what is not the best for the organization. So like that, so management is all about how creative you are, how engaging you are, how innovative you are to make your organization reach greater heights. And it is very dynamic in nature. We can't say that it is fixed in nature, because business market is always volatile. It is going on changing day by day. So even here, management principles should be dynamic and flexible. So whenever there is an opportunity, as according to the environment or market constraints, you have to change your business processes or workflow or the manpower. So it is very dynamic nature. It responds to the changes happening in the business environment, and it has to respond very quickly. Otherwise, the competitors may occupy your place. And it is a social process, because social process in the sense, always management cannot survive alone. They need lot of people, that coordination from lot of people, cooperation from lot of people, so that they can take wise decisions, they can run their organization smoothly without any difficulties. So social process, it can't run in isolation. So certainly the products have to be delivered into the market. The people have to come forward and purchase the product. Then only the management can earn revenues. So this is all a give and take policy, and where it cannot run in isolation. So it is a mix. It is always management always functions with a group of people, and it is an integrative process where you can see a lot of departments working together for a single purpose. So all integrated role of all the departments, the coordinative roles of all the departments, will make the management a successful one. And always it is involved with decision making activity, because management means the people who are involved in the decision making. So it always comes with decision making. That is a key role where the manager plays. So decision making activity is a priority, what the management has to be what the management will or the managers will do in the organization. And coming to the different managerial roles, so like what kind of roles will be performed by the managers? So generally we say that a manager should be very communicative, he should be a good decision maker. But apart from these, lot of other roles the managers will perform, like interpersonal roles he's always involved with. Like he should be like a head of the institution or head of the department, helping the subordinates, guiding the subordinates, supporting the subordinates in all the cases, so that they accomplish their own goals. And that is like he should be like a figurehead for the organization, and everybody has to think the manager as a role model, and they have to initiate the things. And he is always a leader, whatever the position he hold, as a manager or a team leader or a project manager or any other different roles. Always he takes the place of a leader leading his own team or the other teams or whoever seek for his help and guidance. So he's always there to support, to instruct, to coordinate, to guide the subordinates to follow the right lines for the accomplishment of the goals. And he's always a liaison, he's a mediator between the top management and the lower management, or he's a mediator between the management and the employees, passes the information, passes the decisions taken by the top management. And whenever conflicts arises, he is a person who is going to go down to both the parties to settle down the issues. He also plays a lot of roles like information roles as a part of informational roles where he will monitor, observe the performance of the employees. Acts like a disseminator, discreting or dividing the things and assigning the task to each and every individual as according to their qualifications and experience. And he's a spokesperson, like as we discussed, he's a mediating person between the management and the employees, always helping one another to gain the success. And he also plays decisional roles, like he's an entrepreneur, like he though he plays the manager role, but he thinks that he's the boss of the department, he's responsible for the success of the enterprise. So he always tries to minimize the wastage, maximize the output. So in that cases, he's always like an entrepreneur who always worries about this department or the organizations. And he's a disturbance handler, like he's a mediator between the employer and employees, always trying to resolve the conflicts whenever they arise. So resource allocator, as per the requirement, the resources will be divided and allocated so that no disturbances will be there in the accomplishment of the goals. He acts like a negotiator whenever the conflicts will arise. And here we see the essential managerial skills which are required for the organization. Let us go into the detail of the skills where the manager performs a lot of skills. The manager needs a lot of skills. He needs lot of different set of managerial skills to manage, coordinate, or to decide what is good for the organization. Now the essential managerial skills are nothing but the first thing is technical skills. He should be very sound in technical knowledge, because as we know that nowadays every organization is using lot of technology, lot of advancement is going on in the work processes, in the methods of doing the works, or whatever it may be. Every company is using advanced machinery. So in all the cases, the manager should be always updated. So he has to learn all the new technologies coming into the market, which are as per the requirement of the businesses. So new courses, he has to update himself with the new knowledge and skill set, what is required to outperform in the organization. So knowledge of specific tasks and techniques, he should be always updated in this so that he can guide his subordinates whenever it is needed. So all the advancements, what is going on around in the world, as per the organizational need and requirement, he should update himself in the technical knowledge, because that is the important that is the need of the hour, we can say, because every organization has a very tough competition, especially in the usage of the technologies and other advanced machineries and equipments, which brings lot of benefits to the organizations. And he also need human skills, because we say that he is a liaison, he is a mediator, he acts like a negotiator. So he is a person who always coordinate with the people. It can be employees or the middle level managers or the top level managers. He should be able to work with all the people effectively and efficiently so that he can build a rapport, and whenever needed, he can settle down the issues, or he can act like a negotiator whenever certain conflicts are going on. And he should maintain good relations with each and every person in the organization, so that in future, wherever it is necessary, everybody can listen to him. And conceptual skills, ability to understand the organization as a whole, not only technical human skills. He should have an idea about what is going on in and around his organization. So at least he should have the basic knowledge of all the tasks and activities which are performed in the organization. Some logical abilities should be there to think and to suggest creative ideas to the organization. And he should be a very good communicator. Effective sharing of information has to be made by the manager. So he should have a good language, and he should maintain good rapport with all the people. And whatever is required, the essential information has to be shared to each and every person. So the language, the communication, whatever he is using, it should be understandable by each and every employee in the organization. And he should be a very good leader, like he should be able to influence, motivate, and engage employees. And until unless he don't have good leadership skills, nobody will listen to him. So he should develop good leadership skills, where he should be very kind to the employees, always be the first person to resolve the conflicts of the employees or the employers. He should be able to analyze the things and judge properly, decide properly. So every and he should be able to lead, guide, supervise, and instruct the people whenever they seek his help. So he should be able to influence and motivate employees to work hard and to put their maximum efforts in the accomplishment of the organizational goals and objectives. And the next topic is we have like functions of management, where the functions of management are defined differently by different people. Like we say that Luther Gulick has given a word for functions of the management, where he say that the key word he has given like post-cob, where P stands for planning, organizing for O, staffing for S, D for directing, C for coordination, R for reporting, and B for budgeting. So this is the key word which is given to define the functions of management by Luther Gulick. But according to Foyle, control, like is controlling, to manage is to forecast and organize, to command, to coordinate, and to control, whatever the functions of management we generally say. But the most while, because reporting and budgeting always comes in controlling part. So that's the reason reporting and budgeting togetherly called as controlling by Henry Foyle or Kuhn Stonall or whatever it may be. So they define the functions of management as planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling, which are the accepted functions of management worldwide. So coming to the basic functions of management, we have five functions of management, that is planning, staffing, organizing, controlling, and directing. What is planning? Generally, planning in the sense, for every activity, whatever we want to do, we do some sort of planning. That is, we decide in advance what we have to do so that we can complete the task in time properly without any hurdles or challenges. So planning is nothing but deciding in advance what to do. In simple terms, you can say that it is forecasting the future, because where you want to see yourself, because everybody plan lot of things for their future, but the ultimate thing is where you want to see yourself in future. So that is the basis for planning. So suppose you want to see yourself as a good HR manager, then what you have to do is you have to identify the actions, or you want to identify the activities you need to perform in advance so that you can reach whatever the goals you have fixed for your lifetime. Suppose HR manager you want to become, you want to become. Now HR manager, first you have to think about your graduation. What kind of courses will help you to become a good HR manager, like courses like BBM, BCom, BBM, BBA. So there are different courses we have. Then after that, whether you want to do masters or not. If masters in HRM or MBA. Suppose you want to do in masters in HRM, then you may not be eligible for all kinds of roles. But if you do a MBA, you may be eligible for different roles also. So that depends upon your choice again. Now, what you choose. So whatever it is, like MBA or MHR, then after that, immediately you don't get a HR position. Now, what kind of companies will give you easy jobs, like without any much efforts? How can you go into that particular HR role? So that kind of planning you have to do. So you have to think about the organizations which offer you the best roles, the degrees and the education completions, education part, whatever you have to complete. So that you have to decide in advance, and then you have to fix what are the actions which are good, which are good for to reach your goal. So planning is will decide what to do, how to do, and when to do. So that now this kind of estimating of future or planning well in advance or doing the activities in advance will help you in reducing the uncertainty, because suddenly you can't plan anything, and that kind of sudden initiation will not lead to the goals. So it reduces the uncertainty if you decide in advance what to do, how to do, and when to do. Certainly, you will be following a proper planning. So, where you go step by step in that ladder, and at the end, you will achieve your goal. So, it reduces the uncertainty. It provides you a proper direction, like how to do or how to go. So, you will have a clear cut idea about what to do as to in order to achieve your goal. It improves your efficiency, like how much of percentage you have to acquire if you want to get a HR role in topmost companies. So like that, what are the additional skills you have to secure, or you have to require in order to have a good position. So like that, it focuses on the other alternatives also, where it helps you to improve your efficiency and standards, helps coordination, because for this you have to consult a lot of people, take their advices, and then you will start doing, and then you will decide also what to do, because that is purely based upon your understanding what to do, how to do, then that is your decision making. But before taking the decision, you consult a lot of people for that, so who are in that particular roles, you'll take the advice of those roles. So these all things helps coordination skills of the employee to coordinate with multiple people to get better ideas, and facilitates control, because control is nothing but whether you reach your target or not. It measures the target achievement. So if you plan in advance, if you seek the guidance of the people and plan very well, so of course you are going to reach your goal in the lifetime. So planning is nothing but, so it is deciding, it is estimating the future, forecasting the future, and it is where you want to see yourself. For that you need to undertake some actions, so those actions, arranging the sequence of actions, is nothing but planning. So generally, now here planning, we say that planning is never ending, because whatever you are, wherever you are, so always you have to do some sort of planning in which whatever department you are. So always every activity will involve some planning. So planning is always existing, it is a continuous process. It is not a like one time process, because even after achieving, after your completion of your BBA, then you plan for masters. After completion of masters, then you plan for the job or something else. So like that, you are going to do this kind of activity for your lifetime. Even after you're getting your job also, you will plan lot of things, so that you will reach greater heights. So planning is a continuous process. It is deciding in advance what to do, and planning always ends with the selection process. So selection or decision making. So generally we have 5 steps in the planning process. Planning always starts with the goal identification. So because until unless you fix a goal, you can't start the planning, you can't initiate the things. So planning always starts with the goal identification. Suppose in example, like your organization wants to expand its business operations. So expansion is a goal what they want to achieve in the near future. So now the second step is identifying the alternatives in order to achieve that particular goal. So here for expansion, what are the alternatives you have? Like either your organization can go for product expansion, your organization can go for market expansion, your organization go for geographical expansion, because a lot of expansions are there. Now, identifying the alternatives in what way you want to expand your business is the second step in the planning process. And third step you have is, because all alternatives you can't take, only you can follow or you can take one alternative. Even though you have enough funds, you cannot take all the alternatives, because it you don't have a knowledge on how to reach that, how to follow that. So always, it is always better to go with one particular alternative. So in the third stage, in the third step of your planning process, you will decide which alternative is best for your organization. Suppose I go for product expansion. Now, what will be my, who are my what kind of products I need to launch? Who are my competitors? What is the product price? Where will I get the raw materials? What is the production size I have to plan? So these kind of plans you have to make. This kind of analysis you have to make. And then, as according to that, what are the advantages you have? What are the weaknesses you have? Suppose you go for geographical expansion. Now, in what areas you can expand? And those areas are already your competitors are occupying or not. Suppose you want to go for market expansion. Now, which kind of market? Rural areas, urban areas, semi-urban areas, or whatever it may be, the international markets. So now what kind of advantages you have and disadvantages? So like that, for every alternative, you have to analyze the merits and demerits which are suitable for your company as according to the resources you have. And in the fourth step, you will decide as according to the merits and demerits, advantages and disadvantages. You will decide which one will be the best for your organization for expansion. So that is nothing but selection or deciding the alternative what you are going to choose in order to attain your objective. So planning ends with selection or decision making. So that is the four-step planning process generally every organization will follow. And we say that it is a continuous process, it is a never ending process. So, planning always ends with selection, starts with the goal identification. But planning is nothing but which is always involved in initiating the activities necessary for the achievement of your future goals and objectives. Next is organizing function. So organizing is nothing but, because you plan lot of activities, you whatever it may be, your future goals or whatever it may be. In planning, generally we will decide what to do, how to do, and when to do, and who to do. So that is we are going to decide in organizing function. So organizing is nothing but distributing of all your organizational tasks and activities to the employees, because every employee should get a job, get a task. You can't ask them to sit idle and you can't pay them money for their idleness. So every employee is expected to do some kind of work in the organization. Now, what work? So that is we are going to decide in the organizing function, where we divide and allocate the work to all the employees as per their qualifications and experiences. So here organizing is where you put your plan into action by establishing a system of authority and hierarchy in the context of your organizational structure. Not only allocating the work, even you should give the proper powers and authorities to the concerned people so that they can discharge their duties properly and make all the people work for the attainment of organizational goals and objectives. So it is a process where you determine the task that needed to be completed to achieve your goals before assigning them to your staff. So, organizing is a process of arranging tasks, giving authorities and allocation of proper resources to all the employees to complete their task in the given time. And why this organizing is important? Because every employee has to get a job and you have to clarify what he is expected to do in the organization. So it clarifies the role of the employee in the organization, and it improves coordination, because in order to complete your work, you should not keep yourself. You have to coordinate with all the people. Now, here, what happens sometimes, one department output will become another department input. Suppose you say, like production department, so it produces lots of products. Now, marketing department input is this products, the products what this production department delivers. So now these products the marketing department will take and they sell in the market. So that is their output. Selling is the output of the marketing department. And from that selling, we will get revenues. And that revenues is an input to your finance department. Again, they will decide how much of expenses, income, again, where to invest, what to plan. So this is an input to your finance department. Then those financial decisions will be given to R&D for decision making. So like that, every department output will become an input to another department. So there, in order to achieve your department output, you have to coordinate with all the departments. So that is what your organizing function will do. It clarifies that what you are expected to do in your in the organization, what you have to contribute, and from that contributions, which department is going to be helped with that. So it improves coordination in the organization, because if you don't coordinate with other department, they will not share their resources to you. So sharing of resources, coordination, then revenues. So these all are interlinked. So organizing will improve the coordination among employees, and it ensures specialization, because when organizing comes, we talk about departmentations. Department means we group up all the similar tasks and activities into one unit or one department, what we call it as department. So based on the similar activities, based on the specializations, we will divide the organization into various departments. Now, organizing function will try to identify what are the specializations, or what are the tasks you are doing in your organization. Based on that, the similar activities and tasks will be grouped into departments. So it is a basis for forming the departments in the organization. So this is what organizing. And next comes staffing. Well, staffing always involves, because here we talk about one of the important resource, human resources, without which no organization can continue and survive, cannot complete its work. So staffing is all about recruiting, selection, training, and identifying the developmental opportunities for your employees. So this is like your what whoever are required for your organization. So you are recruiting the people, you are selecting the right person for the right job in the right time at the right place is the main objective of staffing. So staffing activities involve all the HRM functions like acquiring the people, selecting the right candidate, offering training and development whenever it is required, performance appraisal so that you take a lot of decisions and you can identify the poor performers and the high performers. So, and after that, lot of decisions you can take regarding increments, promotions, transfers, etc., etc. So, staffing is a function. It is mainly involved with acquiring of human resources into the organization and developing the human resources for your future requirements of the organization. So, so next is function we have is directing. So directing is always like directing always is how the managers direct the employees for the accomplishment of the task, because and not because every employee may not be perfect all the time. So they need certain instructions or guidance or certain support. They seek some support from the managers also. So like where the manager will play a role of a leader, where he will always guide, where he will always direct the instructions what to do and what not to do to the employees, so that they will be on the right track in the accomplishment of the organization goals and objective. So directing is a process of how do you motivate, influence, encourage employees towards higher performance or towards the accomplishments of their goals or the organizational goals. So the main elements of directing is the manager will play the role of a leader, where he is the boss of the people, of the employees, and he will always guide, direct them in the proper direction. He will motivate them, boost up them. He will always encourage them for higher productivity. communicate properly, communicate each and every information with all the employees, because lack of communication may create stress and pressure. So he supervises with all the activities what are done by the people, and when something goes wrong, he is a person who is going to rectify that and correct that in the right time. So he's a person who always guide. He should be like a person who always guide and support the employees wherever required. So directing is giving proper directions to the employees so that they do right work in the right time. And controlling, which is important function of the organization, which ensures harmony among the departments. So controlling is a process where you identify the actual performance of the employees against the targets. So because in every year beginning, we will give you lot we will the organizations will give lot of tasks and targets to the employees, and a certain period will be certain time duration will be given to them, where they will be assessed, and at the end of the time duration they will be assessed whether they have achieved their targets or not. If there are deviations, that means that the employee have not achieved their targets, which results in identifying the training, because in identifying the weaknesses and challenges what the employee has faced and why he has not achieved the targets, and that is the basis for training and development programs. And after for years, if the employee is not improving his performance, then you can decide whether he can continue or he can be terminated. So here in controlling part, we are measuring the actual performance against the targets or the standards which are assigned to the employee for a particular period of time. So it is a process, it is a time taking process where you set standards in the beginning, you measure the performance, observe the performance of the employee for a particular period of time, compare the results between assigned and achieved, and deviations are existing, then you have to identify appropriate actions to be taken up. If no deviations are there, you can assume that the candidate has achieved and he's an outstanding performer. So controlling part will makes every employee alert and helps them in identifying the right skills to complete or to accomplish their task. And it ensures harmony among departments, because here decisions will be taken pure on the targets. It's not like the decisions will be different for different departments, only it is measured against the performance standards given. So this is all about the functions of management. And next one we have is levels of management. So every management or every organization has certain levels where the organization is divided. And based on the size and type of the organization, the levels will be decided. But in generally, so we say that there will be always three levels of management, where organization will be divided into these three levels, and the powers, authorities, and decision making will also be divided as according to the nature of the level. So the three levels of management is like, first one we call it as top level, middle level second one, and third one is a lower level management. And generally CEOs, directors, the people who are involved in the policy making, in setting the guidelines, in taking the decisions of the organization, are involved in the top level management. Generally these are founders or board of directors or shareholders of the company. And middle level management involves department managers, where every organization will have several departments. So all departmental managers and all subordinates or supervisors working under these departmental managers will come, who can coordinate with top and lower level will come in the middle level. And lower level management consists of supervisors, shop floor in charges, foremen, and the people who are involved in the day to day operations of the departments. And middle level managers always act like a mediator between the top and lower level, pass the information from the top to the bottom and from the top bottom to the top level. So these are the three levels of management. Based on the designations, based on the duties they perform, the organization levels are divided. And it is not mandatory that every organization should have these three levels. It depends on the size and type of the organization. I said, suppose if yours is a small company where 50 to 100 people are working, then there is no need of middle level management over there, because even sometimes low level management is also not required, where the top level can easily control the people, coordinate with all the people as the size is very less. But when you go to the higher organization, larger scale organization, even these three levels may not be sufficient, because the size of the employees may be in lakhs or in crores. So in lakhs especially. So there even these three level of people may not be sufficient to control them. Then you can go for five levels or seven levels. It depends on what kind of operations you perform, the nature of your company, the size of your company. So the levels will be generally formed. But for example, if you take an R&D department, so where R&D always involves in new research and everything. Suppose if your organization is such kind of organization, then you can see, even though your organization is very small, you can see all these three levels, because nobody is perfect in research. Everybody have their own knowledge, but everybody will not have the entire knowledge. So there you may need expertise of different people in different positions. So there you can go for three levels, so as per the requirement of your organization. So it completely depends upon the nature, the size, the type of the organization you have, whether you follow three levels or four level or five level. But in general, we have three levels of management, that we call it as top level, middle level, and lower level. So this concept already we have discussed, like management is both science and art. We consider it as a science, because here also, for every decision made by the company, there will be some sort of reactions from the employees. So for every decision, some cause and effect relationship will be there between every decision and actions of the employees. And as an art, every manager should be very creative, should have updated skills and knowledge, so that in the current environment he can survive. He should apply all the concepts into practicalities, where the concepts will be known better. So management is considered as both science and art. And coming to the challenges, management also faces a lot of challenges, because we say that business market is volatile. And now in this kind of environment, always every day we are going to see rapid changes from happening in the organizations. So now the globalization is the biggest challenge for the management. Because of this globalization, competition has been increased, and usage of advanced machinery is the need of the hour. Every organization has to implement technology to speed up their task or activities, or to improve the quality of the products, and to compete with your competitors. So, and managing international competition is also very tough nowadays. So that is the biggest challenge, because came with globalization. And as we know, the technological changes, and today whatever we see, tomorrow it may vanish. So the time period to be for the technology to be outdated is very less, comparative to the older days, where the time taken to vanish from the market is 10 to 15 years either. But nowadays, after every year, we are seeing a new technology coming on in the market. So because of this rapid in digital transformation, so it is very costly for the organizations to tackle with this technological changes, to implement. Then the maintenance cost will be different, and the people who can work on these technologies are also scarce in the market. So that is the biggest problem to tackle with the technological changes coming rapidly. Workforce diversity, where now organizations are encouraging the people from diversified backgrounds, but managing all the diversified workforce is also biggest problem of management. If you don't manage them properly, you will see high attrition rates. And the changing needs of employee expectations. And nowadays we see the Gen Z, where the expectations are completely different, and every day their expectations are becoming more and more. So meeting the needs or the expectations of the employees are nowadays very flexible, like they are going on changing day by day, or from company to company they are different, or from generation to generation they are different. So meeting the need for flexibility and engagement is a difficult challenge. economic uncertainty, the inflation, deflation, recession. We are seeing for every 5 years the technologies are outdated, the people are being fired, so layoffs are there, recession is going on because of frequent wars between countries, inflations is situations are going around. So here, this tackling this uncertainty and building the growth and success of your organization is a complex task, and also following the sustainable business practice and operations without harming the environment is also made mandatory for every organization. And this is very tough in case your organization is involved in any uh, gas kind of organizations, or manufacturing any kind of drugs, so where you have to release all the wastage to the outside environment, to the garbage or in the rivers or like that. So ethical issues, maintaining transparency and integrity in business is very challenging, because now hacking, ethical hacking, a lot of illegal things are going on where the information is not secured. So you have to maintain the integrity and transparency in the business operations. And we have one more concept called as corporate social responsibility, where every organization have responsibility towards lot of people. So that is as a concern, as these people are putting their physical efforts, they are contributing for the organizational success. So every organization has responsibility towards them in meeting certain components or criterias. Like we say that every organization is responsible for its employees, and that is in the payment of wages and salaries. So fair payment of wages and salaries should be there, equal treatment of all employees should be followed, paying the wages in time should be followed. And they are also equally responsible to creditors, where they will take a lot of financial assistance from them to run their business, and paying of the actual amount, principal amount, paying the interest to the financial institutions or the investors with whom who are you are connected. So that is the basic ethical responsibility. Towards government, payment of taxes, towards environment, non-polluting the environment, saving the environment from the hazardous situations, and towards society, because because society is nothing but it's a group of people, and those group of people are purchasing your product, they are consuming your goods and services, and that's the reason your company is surviving. So you should give certain things back to the society. So that is what societal development initiatives should be taken by the organizations. And that we see like where most of the companies will adopt the villages, they will establish schools, hospitals in some rural areas, lay down roads, plantation of trees, conducting free medical camps. So these are like social initiatives what every company initiates, and in order to contribute for the societal development of the country. So environmental protection, employee welfare, community development programs, ethical practices in continuing your business, education, healthcare. So, all these are the areas where the organizations have to focus on and render their services, at least contribute their services to certain extent in safeguarding all the rights of the people and environment. So, that is what the concept of corporate social responsibility, and what is the benefit out of it, because it is not mandatory that every company has to spend this much on the societal development. It is the will and wish of the company. But this also gets some advantages and benefits to your company, because when you do certain good activities, always good will come back. So it improves brand image and reputation of your company in the society. Trust will be built up, like when you see the example of Tata. So Tata is known for trust. So like the initiatives, the actions taken, the kind of products they produce, the kind of safety measures they take, the kind of employee welfare concern they show to the employees as well as society, has built a trust on that particular product. So build customer trust, enhances employee morale. If your organization do good things, your employees will feel it as a pride thing, because they are part of that one also. So boost up the employee morale and supports the sustainable development in the organizations. These are some CSR initiatives what companies can take, and what are the benefits they can accrue out of that CSR initiatives. So that's all for today in this topic. We will come with the next topic in the next video. Thank you.